No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House. Some places were never meant to be lived in, and some truths were never meant to be uncovered. When Mara's estranged aunt passed away, she inherited a centuries-old estate hidden deep within the mist-covered woods of Black Hollow, a place she'd only heard whispers about growing up, always in hushed tones, always followed by silence. No one from the family had dared to return in decades. The lawyer's only advice: don't stay past the third night. But Mara needed answers. Why did her mother burn every photo of the house? Why did no one talk about the Hollow family line? She arrived with her car nearly out of gas, rain hammering her windshield, and fog so thick the trees looked like shadows creeping toward her. The house stood waiting tall, dark, and disturbingly still. She unlocked the rusted iron gate. It groaned like it hadn't been touched in years. She stepped inside. The door closed behind her on its own, and somewhere behind the walls, something whispered her name. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone. Shirley Jackson. The silence hit her first. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that pressed on your chest and warned you not to breathe too loudly. Mara stood at the edge of the long gravel driveway, her boots crunching against stone. Towering trees lined the road like sentinels, their branches reaching inward as if trying to pull her back. Not a single bird chirped, no wind, no life. Just the house, standing alone, massive and menacing. It didn't look abandoned. The windows were shut, the shutters intact. Yet it felt untouched, like it had simply paused, waiting for her return. Ivy crawled across the stone like veins. The front door loomed, made of black oak, and carved with symbols she didn't recognize. Her hand hesitated before turning the cold brass handle. Inside, the air was colder than outside. Dust floated lazily in thin streaks of light. The grandfather clock in the foyer ticked, even though no one had wound it. A mirror above the fireplace reflected her image, but behind her, a shape flickered and vanished when she turned. Upstairs, rooms weighted with furniture still covered in white sheets. One chair in the corner was uncovered, its cushion slightly indented, as if someone had just stood up. In the hallway, she passed a row of portraits ancestors, presumably. All had the same hollow-eyed stare, all except one. A woman in black, her face scratched out violently, her nameplate missing. That night, Mara unpacked but couldn't sleep. Not because of the house settling or the wind, which never came, but because somewhere deep in the walls, there was a soft thudding, rhythmic, like footsteps. She told herself it was old plumbing, but the sound didn't stop. It moved. It is the custom of the house to keep things to itself. Shirley Jackson, but what if the house starts to share? Pitch black. She reached the bottom by memory 10 steps, then the stone floor. She turned on her Fombi the second night. Mara had stopped pretending the sounds were just plumbing. The footsteps didn't echo randomly, they paced. Sometimes above her, sometimes below, always stopping when she moved. She shouted once, thinking it might be an animal. The house answered her with silence. Then laughter soft, childlike, and coming from the basement door. She hadn't opened it yet. In the daylight, she explored more of the estate. The study smelled like old paper and burned wax. She found letters sealed with black ribbon, written in a language she didn't recognize. In the attic, she discovered an old leather-bound diary tucked under loose floorboards. It belonged to Clara Hollow, her great-grandmother. At first, the entries seemed ordinary. Gardening, village gossip, mention of a child's birth. But the tone shifted quickly. Clara wrote of mirrors that showed rooms from other times, of rooms rearranging themselves, of voices coaxing her to come downstairs. Mara slammed the diary shut. That night, the basement door began to rattle. She placed a chair against it. It stopped. But later, the chair was across the room, overturned. The door remained shut, but the thudding started again. She began seeing things out of the corners of her eyes. A woman in black at the top of the stairs. A pale hand vanishing behind a curtain. Once, while brushing her teeth, her reflection smiled a moment too long after she'd stopped. Sleep was impossible. The house had moods. Cold when she was afraid, stifling when she was tense. Lights dimmed without warning. Once, her phone screen glitched, flashing a photo she hadn't taken herself, sleeping with someone standing over her. She tried to leave. The front door wouldn't open. Not jammed, just ... sealed. She slammed against it, no response, no echo. The silence pressed harder now. The house wasn't just watching, it was listening. And slowly it was responding, and then it spoke. Through the radio in the study, static at first. Then a voice, Clara's voice from the diary, repeating the same phrase over and over. Don't go down, don't go down, don't go down. The basement door creaked. Open. Journeys end in lovers' meeting. Shirley Jackson, but not all meetings are kind, and not all journeys return. Mara stood at the top of the cellar stairs, flashlight trembling in her grip. The basement door now hung slightly open, as if the house had finally decided she was ready, or weak enough to enter. The air that drifted up was different, cold, metallic, damp like a mouth that hadn't opened in years. She hesitated, remembering Clara's diary. The last entry had been only a few words. It calls from below. It knows my name. So did the voice on the radio. Last night, it had stopped warning her. Now it simply said, "Come down, Mara. Please, come see." She descended slowly. The flashlight flickered. Then it died, elate. The beam illuminated stone walls covered in carved symbols, identical to the ones on the front door. In the center of the room sat a circle of ash and bone, small bones. Beside them, a mirror, but not her reflection. It showed the room behind her, but someone else was there, a woman in black. No face, just a void where the face should be. Mara turned. Nothing. When she looked back at the mirror, her own face was gone. Panic surged. She staggered backward into a shelf, jars shattered. One spilled something thick and red across her shoes. From above, the basement door slammed shut. She screamed, ran up the stairs, pounded her fists, but the door wouldn't budge. Then behind her, she heard breathing, slow, deep, right against her neck. She turned, nothing, except ... the whisper, "Welcome home, Hollow." She finally broke through the door and collapsed on the floor, gasping. The lights upstairs flickered violently. The portraits in the hallway had changed. The scratched-out woman now had a face. It was Mara's. The diary was gone, in its place a new book, blank pages. A quill beside it. The house had made its decision. Now it wanted her to write. Whatever walked there walked alone. Shirley Jackson, but now it doesn't walk alone anymore. The next morning, the village priest found Mara's car on the side of the road, keys still in the ignition. No sign of a struggle, just an open door and wet footprints leading into the trees. He reported it, but no one volunteered to search the estate. The villagers remembered the Hollow House. They remembered what it took. When the authorities finally entered the mansion, they found everything strangely ... undisturbed, dust untouched. No signs of forced entry or violence. Every door unlocked, except one. The basement door. It was wide open. No one dared go down. On the study walls, words were scrawled in what looked like ink or blood. Long, rambling phrases, names, dates. Screams scratched into the wallpaper like someone had clawed them there. And one sentence repeated in a childlike hand. "I stayed too long," I answered back. The fireplace mantel held only one item now, a new portrait, fresh paint. The woman in black again. Only this time, the face was complete. It was unmistakably Mara, Worse, her eyes followed you, not the painting trick kind. The kind that knows you, watches you, waits. Outside, the wind had finally picked up. Locals swore they heard crying from the forest. Some said it was just the wind. Others claimed it was a voice calling for help. But they all agreed on one thing: the house no longer felt empty. And at night, if you listen closely outside the estate gates, you'll hear it. A voice hers reciting the words she wrote in her final hours. The house breathes. The house remembers. And now, the house is me. They never found her body. But the diary? The diary filled itself, one page at a time, every night. Some houses are born bad. Shirley Jackson, and some people are simply drawn to them. Mara wasn't the first. She won't be the last. The Hollow Estate has always been hungry for memory, for presence, for names to write into its walls. Now, it has hers. They say the house chooses its next resident. Maybe it's looking through the screen right now. Maybe it's listening for the one who's most curious, the one who stays to the very end. The diary grows longer each night. Some swear if you read its entries aloud, you can still hear Mara's voice echo in the background. Others say you start dreaming of staircases that go nowhere and doors that never open the same way twice. But there's one thing everyone agrees on. Once you hear the whisper, it's already too late. So would you stay a night in your family's forgotten estate just to find out the truth? If this tale chilled you to the bone, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, "I heard her whisper," to prove you made it out. More horror stories await ... Be careful. Some stories remember you.